DIY tape job. The purpose of this taping is an arch support, so a medial arch support. I was taught to do it way back when with half strips of tape, making a very intricate pattern on the bottom of the foot of half strip, half strip, half strip. The reason why they used half strips is because people's heels are not that big. And so in order to have the tape lie flat around the heel, it was a half strip. But I'm going to show you a little trick to use a full strip, which is faster and also just more comfortable for the person. Okay, so our goal is to lift this inside arch. So I'm going to start with, you can use a pre-spray, which will make this last longer, especially if they have sweaty feet. I would definitely use a pre-spray. Okay, so I'm gonna come over the bases of the foot, because if you think of the plantar fascia, it comes all the way to the bases of the toes. So I'm gonna put a first strip, my anchor strip, at the bases of the toes. I'm gonna splay the foot by pushing into my hip and just lay the tape down on the top of the foot. Ta-da, that is our first anchor strip. Second anchor strip, we're gonna come from the lateral aspect of the foot on the fifth toe around the back of the calcaneus. Now you can see if I just keep going, she's got some extra tape space here. So what I'm going to do is tuck my finger in there to make a pivot point, which is my favorite word, and pull the tape to the base of the first toe. Okay. So now I have a circumferential anchor this way and a circumferential anchor around the lateral and medial aspect with this gap of tape in the back. So what I do is pull it with my finger, pinch it together. This is where Rihanna always thinks I'm going to cut her foot off. I'm not going to cut your foot off. Okay, so this little dart, I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and without cutting Rihanna's foot, I'm going to snip the dart away. Cool, right? So far so good? Great. All right, now I'm gonna build this arch support. So what I'm gonna do is come from the medial aspect of the foot, trace along the bottom and smoosh the tape in so it's nice and adherent around the back of the calcaneus. Again, put my finger, create my little pivot point so that I can wrap the tape back to the base of the first toe and tear. So I'm going medial to medial. Smoosh it in so it sticks nicely. Make this little dart, pinch it together, and give it a little snip without scaring people. Now I'm gonna go lateral to lateral. So if you were taught the half strip method, you're gonna find this so much faster. So we're gonna start on the fifth toe, and smoosh it in around the back of the calcaneus, make that little pivot point so that you can come back to the fifth toe. Pivot and pinch all the P's and snip. Okay, so we've got medial to medial, lateral to lateral. Now I'm going to take, I call this my breast cancer loop. So I'm gonna go from the base of the first toe across the bottom. I'll move my hand so you can see. Bottom of the foot, around the back of the calcaneus. Now you're gonna need a pretty aggressive pivot point here. Talking and doing at the same time. Here we go. Around the back, find that finger pull so that we can cross right over to the fifth. So this piece is going to go from the first, make a loop, to the fifth. So that's why I call it my breast cancer loop, because I remember what it is. It's like a ribbon. It's like a breast cancer ribbon. pull it together in that little dart. It will stick to itself, and then snip that off. Okay, so that's the base of the tape job. So we've got the base filled in. Now the top. So you really like to wing that foot, don't you? All right, we're gonna fill in the top, but I'm gonna show you a little trick so it doesn't get too tight. I find when people tape circumferentially, it gets very snug, and then when you step on the ground, the foot can be very pulled into an uncomfortable arch. So this is a nice little trick. We're actually gonna leave these loose. You're gonna take your fill-in strips, bring yourself up into ankle flexion, and we're going to just rip it on the top without sticking it. So you're gonna have all these loose ends. It's gonna feel very strange to you as the taper, but trust me, this will work great. So pull up the bottom of the foot, both sides of the tape, and leave it open. Now, Rihanna, can you come to the floor? So with Rihanna standing, I know that she's not going to be too tight. It's not going to be too crampy. So if I just open these ends and stick them down in standing, she's using her weight to open the foot, so it won't be too snug. And then I can stick these down in sequence. Over the top of the foot. Ta-da! So that's now closed, and that probably feels like it's giving you some support underneath the foot. Great, we have one more piece to do, so pop up. This last piece, we call this the little pièce de résistance piece. You can either use a white tape, or if it's somebody that needs a lot of structural support, you can use a Leukotape. I'm gonna actually show you in the Leukotape because you'll see it better in the contrast colors to the white tape, which will make it easier to do. All right, so this piece is gonna look a little similar to your tibialis posterior support. We're gonna come like we did our first anchor strip. So from the base of the first toe, along the inside arch, around the back of the calcaneus, pop your finger in here so that you have that pivot point. You're gonna come around and underneath the arch because you want the tape to lift up through the medial arch to support tibialis posterior. And then end it on the top of the foot and make one more little dart together and give it a snip. And then Rihanna, if you stand up, hopefully should notice a little bit more lift. So that one last strip really does make a difference to lifting the inside arch. But yeah, so if you try and roll those Gumby feet of yours, but it shouldn't feel like it's cutting in anywhere. It should feel very, very comfy, like a slipper.